Everyone says that they want to be with a good person. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people. Not a perfect person, not necessarily a soulmate, though that would be nice, but mostly we just want to be with a good person. And when we say good person, we usually start listing some virtues. I mean, we want them to be kind and honest. We do not want them to be a cheater. We do not want them to be physically or verbally or emotionally abusive. We don't want them to lie to us. We just want them to be helpful. Mostly, we just don't want them to be bad, right? That is the cultural script. And it makes sense. I mean, if you have been through any kind of chaos or cruelty or instability, good person feels like safety. It feels like, at the very least, like you're not going to be harmed. And that is wonderful. But, of course, there's a but I think that there is something uncomfortable that we need to contend with about this because you can be a genuinely good person. I'm talking no abuse, no cheating, no blatant villainy, and still not be an emotional provider in your relationship. Being good does not automatically make you a great partner. Hey, lovers. This is Sex in Real Life. Honest conversations about sex and relationships beyond 40. I'm your host, Stacey Herrera. A lot of people perform goodness because it's socially acceptable, because it's what we've been taught to value. We learn how to be polite, how to be helpful, how to be seen as caring. We learn the behaviors that get us called a good person. And we do those things, we tick those boxes, but that good person performance leaves something very important out, and that's emotional nuance. Being a good person, socially speaking, does not guarantee that you know how to show up emotionally. It does not guarantee that you're able to sit with someone's feelings without fixing them or minimizing them. It doesn't guarantee that you can nurture someone else's inner world or even your own inner world for that matter. It's not unlike parenting when you really think about it. Because, you can make sure those kids have a roof over their head, that they are clothed and fed, and they get an education. And those are real acts of care and they really matter. So I am not at all being dismissive here. But none of that automatically means that the child feels loved by you. We assume it does. I mean, we say, like, I love you. Look at everything that I do for you. But care and love are not the same thing. Care is usually visible, and love is often about what happens underneath. And romantic relationships work the same way. I mean, you can pay the bills, mow the lawn, make the meals, show up for the holidays, like plan Thanksgiving and Christmas, and send the presents and stay faithful and do all the things that make you look good on paper. And your partner can still feel emotionally alone. There is this woman that I've known for a couple of decades, and her relationships are shitty. Let's just be real. Her relationships have been shitty since I've known her. And one of the things that she says all the time is, I am a good woman. And then she starts listing off all the good woman things she does. She cooks and she cleans and she takes care of her man sexually and she's supportive and she listens and she shows up. And she has this whole mental checklist of what good women do. And for all the years that I've listened to her, I don't doubt that she's trying her very best. And I'm not saying she's a bad woman. She's not. But she's doing all the things that she was taught make someone good in a relationship. But I'm not so sure that she has any framework for what it means to be a partner. I'm not talking about a role or a title, but a partner. Someone who can sit across from another human being and be emotionally in the room. Someone who can show up with their own feelings and shit and still make room for someone else's feelings and shit, right? Now, I do want to point out that This example is very gendered, and I'm not trying to buy into the binary trope because people of all genders have a list in their head. I provide, I'm loyal, I come home every night, I don't cheat, I don't yell, I don't talk shit, I'm a good person. We all have a version of that. So I just want to say that. And we are good in a lot of those ways, but being everything that bad people aren't is a really low bar for the kind of emotional connection that most of us crave. I mean, if you're measuring from the curb, you're going to always be tall. True. Facts. People who see themselves as good are invested in not being seen as bad. So then it becomes like avoid harm, avoid blame, avoid being the villain in your own story or someone else's. And again, that's totally understandable. Nobody wants to be the bad guy. Well, there are some people who want to be bad guys, but most of us, the people here, we don't want to be bad guys. But the problem is, you can spend so much energy trying not to be bad that you really never learn how to be emotionally present. So, being a good person doesn't mean that you automatically know how to stay in the room when someone you love is upset with you. It doesn't mean that you know how to hear hard truth without shutting down or flipping the script. Doesn't mean that you know how to notice your own patterns and take responsibility for them, or how to be curious about your partner's inner world instead of trying to defend your own image. All of those are different muscles. There's a quote from a relationship therapist, Elizabeth Earnshaw, and I really love this. She says, "You can love someone unconditionally and yet find that they can't meet the conditions for maintaining a relationship." Let me say that again for the people in the back. You can love someone unconditionally and yet find that they can't meet the conditions for maintaining a relationship. And I think that what we're talking about here lives in that, because you can love someone. You can be someone that is loved. You can see their goodness. You can be good. You can want the best for them. You can be the best version of yourself. And you can be deeply attached and still discover that as much as you or they are good, it doesn't mean that you have the skills or the willingness to meet the other person emotionally. And the same can be true for someone else. To be joined in the kind of relationship that feeds you both, you might not have that. They might not have that. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you're trying to hurt them. But being a decent person and being emotionally available are not the same thing. I mean, most of us here are over 40 and in this in between place, right? We're with someone maybe who doesn't do the obvious bad things. Again, no abuse, no cheating, no secret double life. They show up. They're kind in a general way. Other people might say you're lucky, and yet you might feel, I don't feel deeply known here. My feelings don't seem to land anywhere. When I'm hurting, they're nice, but I feel alone. Big parts of myself live outside of this relationship. But because we've internalized that being a good person, we might turn that on ourselves and we say, who am I to complain? I have it good. I should be grateful. At least they're not like my ex. I know you said it. Maybe someone has said that about you. We love to compare our current situations to the worst thing we've ever experienced or the worst thing we've seen someone else experience. Because anything that is above the filthy line is fine. But seriously, not terrible is not the same thing as emotionally nourishing. Just like feeding and housing a child is not the same thing as a child feeling loved. Caring for a partner in all the visible ways is not the same thing as the partner feeling emotionally held and supported. And this goes both ways. I mean, some of us are not and talking about, I'm a good partner and I do this, 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 and this. Why are you still unhappy? I mean, we've been taught that our goodness lives in what we do, in the labor, in our relatability, in our sexual availability, in our helpfulness. We haven't been taught as much about how our goodness might also be measured in things like, can I apologize? Can I listen without defending? Can I let myself be seen when I don't look perfect? All of that. Bell Hooks talks about how many of us learn how to care but not love. We learn the mechanics of taking care of people, feeding them, housing them, helping them. We do our duty. I will drop the book All About Love by Bell Hooks in the show notes. But back to this, because this is important because love asks more than that. Not bigger gestures. Love asks for a different kind of presence. It asks us to risk our image as the good one in order to be real. It invites us to let go of being everything the bad people aren't and instead ask, who am I willing to be emotionally with this person? So when someone says, I'm with a good person and I still feel empty, I don't hear ingratitude. I'm not hearing someone that's ungrateful. What I'm hearing is someone bumping up against the limits of goodness as a performance. They're noticing that those virtues we've been taught to prioritize, reliability, faithfulness, providing, not causing harm, are not the whole story when it comes to feeling loved. And that's uncomfortable because it messes with the story we've been sold. Find a good person. Don't pick an obvious jerk and you'll be fine. But a lot of us are not fine. We're functioning, we're managing, we're grateful, and we might also still be hungry. It's probably not dramatic. So I'm not I'm not pitching any solutions here. What I am inviting you to is just to pay attention to the difference between being a good person and being an emotionally nourishing partner, to the difference between I don't do anything wrong and I know how to show up when things get emotionally real, when the shit hits the metaphorical emotional fan. There's no neat checklist for this shit. And I don't think that the answer is just throw someone away if they can't meet you perfectly. Relationships are way more complicated than that, especially at this stage of life. But I do think that it's worth asking, where am I equating good with emotionally fulfilling when those are two separate things? Where might I be performing goodness instead of letting myself be seen and known? Am I making excuses? Am I just saying, like, at least they're not bad, just so I can avoid being real about how I'm feeling? And if you are that quote unquote good person, the one who works hard and does all the right things, the question becomes, what would it mean for me to be emotionally present and not just practically reliable? What might I have to feel or risk to go there? Mm, mm. That's some terrain right there. That's some terrain right there. And I do want to, explore that in a few future episodes. I'm not really sure, but, all the ways we confuse care with love and goodness and emotional availability and not bad, all that stuff. But because we are going to keep talking about wanting to be with a good person, and that's a real, honest, genuine desire, and it's good. But we also need to be a lot more honest about what good means inside a relationship when we're in it. I don't really know what we're talking about next time. Something juicy and delicious and something to invite you into a deeper conversation with yourself. If this has opened your eyes or made you go, in any kind of way, please share. Tweet it, I don't know. Do people still use Twitter? I don't know. I don't. But share it, post it, text it, or whatever. And if you feel inclined, if you feel like these conversations are moving the needle for you a little bit or helping you to move the needle, if you have a moment, leave a rating or a review. It really does help other people find this podcast. I'm grateful. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being willing. Oh, being willing is so wonderful. That is one of the ways you start shifting deeper than just being a good person, is just being willing to go where so many others dare not to. See you next week. Until then, take care. Ciao.